So thank you all for letting me join you today. I'm here to talk to you guys all about the Clean Energy Communities program. It's a nice CERTA program, but before I jump into exactly what it is, I guess I'll give a short introduction to myself. My name is Carroll. I work for Cornell Cooperative Extension, actually out of Tompkins County. The reason I'm talking to all of you today is Tompkins County got a grant back in February to run the Clean Energy Communities program, to coordinate it across a 5-county region. And so I work not only in Tompkins County, but Broome and Tioga County. And actually we're hiring a young woman who's going to be starting next week. Her name's Tara Donadino, and she's going to be based out of the Delaware County Cooperative Extension Office, and she's going to be working with Delaware and Shenango counties. But I'm here presenting to all of you because she hasn't quite started yet. And what our purpose is to help municipalities that are interested in this program to become what's called a Clean Energy Community program. And so through this, we can help your community receive try and attempt to receive Clean Energy Community designation certification. And the process is a little bit complicated, but I'll start off with what the program is exactly. And it's a nice CERTA program. So for those of you unfamiliar, nice CERTA is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. They developed this program to help New York State communities implement clean energy actions, save energy costs, create jobs, improve the environment, and hopefully provide tools, technical assistance, resources to help really lead the fight towards clean energy. And so this is a program that's designed for the counties, the towns, the villages, and the cities. And so it's at those 4 different municipal levels. And so along that path, what we're here to do is for anyone that's interested to help collect documentation, submit actual action items, and then eventually assist communities that have received designation as a clean energy community apply for grant funding, and to figure out what programs that grant funding can really work for. So the reason why this program was created for really 2 different reasons. The reason to do it for municipalities, it's an opportunity to obtain additional funding for clean energy actions, and I cover the grant program a little bit later. The other thing is there's about 10 actions, and throughout completing these different actions, it's a way for municipalities to start to save money. So for instance, one of the actions is to benchmark your building's energy usage. And so you're looking at maybe your town hall, if you have a fire department, if you have a sewage treatment facility, you're tracking that usage over time, and you're figuring out, over the last 3 years, we've seen a continued rise in electricity costs. Why is that? And once you have an understanding that your electricity costs are rising year over year, you can start to identify ways to really, combat this and to try and bring them lower so you can save yourself money in the long run. It's also a great program because we offer technical assistance to communities that have always wanted to do something around energy. So if you have a municipality, if you're part of a town or a village that has always considered putting solar on their buildings and really never knew where to start, that's what the coordinators like myself and Tara, that's what we're here to help with. So if there's something that you want to do around energy, and especially around clean energy, we're here to provide that assistance. And then lastly, the program is designed for municipalities that want to be recognized as leaders in clean energy. And this is something that the state really wants to encourage. I think many of you are probably familiar with the governor's goals of creating New York State into a clean energy leader, his reforming the energy vision, the clean energy standard that he came up with. This is all kind of rolled into that. It's part of his plan to create a more sustainable New York State, build energy resiliency especially, and really to encourage municipalities to make this switch as soon as possible. And so that's why you'll see as we jump into how to become a clean energy community, there's 10 high impact action items. I'll cover them in just a moment. But in order to become designated as clean energy communities, you just have to complete 4 of the 10. And some of them are hard actions, some of them aren't actions that every municipality can do, and some of them are easier, and some of them are things that maybe you've already done. And so the step-by-step really, how we imagine this is, I'm here to just present the program to all of you to start to gauge interest. And it's our intention to try and work with every municipality on a one-on-one basis, show them the 10 high-impact action items, see which of the 10 they're interested in. If they're interested in doing 5 of them, we'll help you out with those 5. If you're interested in just doing 1 of them, we'll help you out with just that 1. And if you're not interested in doing any of them, then that's good information for us to know as well, because we can pass it on to the state and say, hey, we came up with these 10 items. None of them have really applied to these municipalities. They don't have an interest in any of these 10. So if you're going to come out with a program, it has to have some more consultation with some of these towns to see what they are interested in, and so how we can help them out. And so once we identify which action items you want to complete, our process is gathering some of the documentation. So if there's an item that you've already done, if you've already passed the unified solar permit, If you've already made some clean energy upgrades to your building, if you already have an electric charging station, we just collect that documentation, pass it on to the state, they approve the action, and it's really easy. But so for some of the actions that you might actually want to do, so let's say, for instance, that benchmarking sounds really intriguing to you, but you have no idea where to start. That's where we come in by doing that first year benchmarking, setting up the profiles for your building, and then showing you how in the future all it is going in and entering in your energy bills for month by month, and at the end of the year just compiling that into a report. And so it's our job to really walk you through that process and show you how easy it can be. Once we submit the documentation for the different actions, they have to receive approval from the state to make sure that they actually were completed. And once you complete 4 high impact action items, you're able to apply for grant funding. And so the CDC grant funding is a pretty unique grant structure from what we've seen so far in a lot of the grants that NYSERDA has done before. It's broken down in 2 different ways. So one of the ways is it's broken down is by municipality size. So there's a set of grants for municipalities that are over 40,000, and then there's a set of grants that are for under 40,000. And here in Shenango County, there's only going to be one municipality that's over 40,000, and that's the county itself. So all of the other municipalities would be looking at that smaller grant size. In terms of the large grant size, there's 2 grants of $250,000 that were available. One of them was already taken by Tompkins County because this is a first come, first served process. But that means there's still 1 grant of $250,000 and there's 2 grants of $150,000. And in the small to medium category, which most of the municipalities are going to fall into, none of those have been taken so far. So they're still all up for grabs. And as I just mentioned, grants are on a first come, first served process. I showed the graphic right there. There's 18 total grants, 14 for small communities, 4 for large communities. Once those grants are gone, they're gone. There's been no indication from the state at this point whether they're going to submit a second round and whether they're going to be funded again. And I should say that those 18 grants aren't just for Shenango County. They're not just for Shenango and Delaware County. They're not even just for the 5 counties that I manage. It's part of the whole Regional Economic Development Council zone. So we're in what's considered the southern tier. So it's the 5 counties that I manage. So Broome, Tioga, Tompkins, Shenango, and Delaware, but it's also off to the west, Steuben, Schuyler, and Chemung County. And so it's going to be, we think, a fairly competitive process. This grant process the program itself started in August. We weren't brought on until February, and it's taken us a while to get going, to hire everyone and put everyone into place. But as I said, only one of those grants so far has been taken, so there's still another 17 up for grabs at this point. The grant details themselves are that once you become designated a clean energy community, you have 3 months to submit a proposal for grant funding, 6 months to start work, and 3 years to use the funding to complete that work. Grants themselves require no local cost share, so that means if you're getting a grant for $100,000, it's $100,000. You don't have to come up with $25,000 on your own. They have to be used for actions that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and up to 25% is available as an advance payment. And within that grant selection criteria, or within that grant process, there is some selection criteria. There's about 100 points through these 6 different selection criteria. And this is a presentation I'm more than willing to share with anyone. I can email it to someone and they can spread it onto the group if that would be something that you're interested in. And so within this program itself, as I said, there's the 6 different selection criteria. The big one is to just make sure that you have a plan. The state doesn't really want to fund any more projects that don't have a pretty comprehensive plan in a reasonable time frame of how they're going to get it done. And so that one's worth 25 possible points. The rest are worth 15. So they're trying to figure out what is going to be the direct impact on energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. And even though this one is only worth 15 points, the state has said that this is their primary objective is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions through this program. It's also looking at other sustainability benefits. So if you're trying to reduce congestion in a particular locale, or if you're trying to use less water in a specific situation, and one of these grants can not only reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but it also can contribute to those goals, that's something that the state is interested in. They want to know what effort's going to be made to transfer knowledge and work with other municipalities. So whether it's combining fundings or whether it's just going to a group like this and presenting, this is what we did with our grant, this is the results of that. That's what the state wants to see. They don't want to just see projects be really insular and you just do them and never tell anyone about it. They also, this one gets a couple of blank stares sometimes. the state has decided that they want them to not only be innovative but also replicable approaches, which can be difficult to do both sometimes. And so, and then lastly, before I just kind of cap this all off, they also are seeing if you can leverage other public and private dollars or create permanent job creation and other investment. I'll say that the total point value that's available through these 6 selection criteria is 100 points. In order to be eligible for the grants themselves, you only have to get 50 points. And so if you don't have a lot of points, for instance, in being innovative and replicable, that's okay. As long as you're getting some of these other point values, that's going to work out. The one that they really want to see points into, though, is this direct impact on energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. So I don't have it as a slide in my presentation, but what I've been seeing around the state and some of the other locations that I showed on the REDC map. So right here, some of these other areas like the Mid-Hudson Valley, Long Island, Central New York, the Capital District, those grants have been quickly taken up. A lot of them are already gone in some areas, and some of the projects that we're starting to hear that are coming out of some of these areas are things like upgrades to their wastewater treatment facilities, especially because they can use so much energy and it can help reduce operating costs for the municipality, but it can also be a significant driver of reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. We've talked to other municipalities that are interested in putting an electric vehicle charging station, or they're interested in putting, some sort of heat pumps or insulation into their buildings in order to make them more energy efficient. And so what we see generally are people that want to use these grants that will have future benefits. And so they're not only reducing emissions, but they're trying to reduce the operating costs for their particular communities. So like I said, in order to become designated, there's 10 high impact action items. You only have to complete 4 of the 10. I'm going to give a very quick rundown of some of what some of these are. I mean, this is, when I send out this presentation to you, you can definitely take a closer look. On the right-hand side, we talk about, what assistance we can offer in this, and then, what we would need from you in order to complete this. But I'll just kind of run through some of what the actual action items are. So benchmarking, it's one that's applicable to all communities. Essentially what we're looking for in this one is to just look at any building that you have that's over 1,000 square feet and just benchmarking their energy use. So looking at their electricity use, their natural gas use, their propane use, and just documenting that over the course of a year and saying that the town is going to pass a resolution that they'll make that information public. The next one, clean energy upgrades. This is what I'll say right off the bat, this is one of the harder ones to achieve, and it's reducing a 10% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Only 5% of this can come from renewables, so if you have solar, you've probably reduced your greenhouse gas emissions by a significant amount, but it can only account for 5 of that 10%. So other things that you'd be looking for is if you switched out your street lights, or if you reduced if you changed all your light bulbs to LED light bulbs, or you recently insulated the building or switched to a different heating source. These are all things that can contribute to clean energy upgrades. LED streetlights is another one. They're looking for a conversion of regular Cobra head streetlights to LED streetlights. This is another one it's not the easiest one to do, but it can be expensive for some municipalities, especially if the utilities haven't come out with a rate case. As NYSEG hasn't yet developed a rate case for the switch over to LED light bulbs. So in order to accomplish this one, if you're a NYSEG customer, you'd have to buy back the streetlights and then basically install them yourself. If you're a National Grid customer, they do have a rate case that you can follow. You're just looking to convert 50% of the municipal or utility-owned streetlights to LED streetlights, and that has to be a minimum of 10 fixtures. And so that's the other catch, is for some municipalities that I work with, they might have 7 or 8. So no matter what, they're never going to qualify for that, unfortunately.
Question on the rate case.
Yeah.
NYSEG hasn't had a rate case, so how can the municipality encourage them to do it?
So they've been told by the Public Service Commission that they have to come out with one by September 1st. So they actually came out with one. It was pretty terrible. The PSC told them they had to redo it. It has to be done by September 1st. So it's coming. It's just not quite here yet, unfortunately. The next one, clean fleets. This is, you can basically demonstrate this action being completed in 2 different ways. The first is to have an electric vehicle charging station installed. So either one level 3 charging station, what's called a DC fast charging station, or a level 2 charging station that has 2 ports. There's a lot of incentives out there right now. The DEC is about to come out with another round of incentives that they had last year for municipalities that want to install charging ports that can make them really cheap. These are the types of things that coordinators are also here to do, is to tell you about some of these program incentives that are coming out, just to see if you're interested in them. So this is, that's the first way that you can do it, and that's what we've seen so far is one of the easier ways that municipalities choose to do it. The other one is to submit documentation or to purchase an alternative fuel vehicle. And so this can include plug-in electric vehicles, fully electric vehicles, or compressed natural gas or hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. And so they can be light duty, medium duty, heavy duty. One of the municipalities I worked with demonstrated that they had completed this by just having their town planner has a plug-in hybrid electric car that they use to go around, and so that demonstrated that. And that's another one where we're expecting some incentives in that area. Solarize, so this is one of the more difficult ones to accomplish, but it's one that we've found that in some areas, at least some municipalities have already accomplished. So there's been a series of Solarize campaigns that have gone on across the southern tier. If we can show that the municipality interacted with the Solarize campaign and that Solarize campaign got at least 10 participants within the jurisdiction, then that will count to submit this. The other option is to work with a currently running Solarize campaign, and I know that there's one that's running here at the moment called Southern Tier Solar Works. So that's another possible option. The Unified Solar Permit, this is actually one of the easiest ones to accomplish. It's applicable to all communities that issue building permits, so if you're the county, unfortunately, you probably don't have the ability to do this since most counties don't issue building permits. In order to do this one, the Unified Solar Permit, it's basically a document that was put out a couple years ago by NYSERDA and New York Sun and a couple of other groups worked on it. I will say that the first iteration was pretty terrible. It wasn't widely adopted, and a lot of code enforcement officers saw the first version and it's still stuck in their head as being this terrible document. They came out with a revision last year. It's been a lot better. The code enforcement officers that I've talked to have said that it's finally at the state that it's actually usable. And so that's actually something that we would talk to the code enforcement officer and say, is this in a state that you feel like it can be used? And if that's the case, it's just passing a resolution saying that the town's going to adopt the Unified Solar Permit. The other nice thing to know about this one is that there's currently a streamlined funding grant source available for this grant. Depending on size, for small municipalities it's $2,500. For larger ones it's $5,000. So if you did pass the Unified Solar Permit until July 28th, you're available to actually submit for a consolidated funding application for $2,500. And what we've seen some municipalities do is, pass the Unified Solar Permit, go through the grant application, get $2,500, use that to buy an electric charging station, and right off the bat they have 2 actions completed. So that's been a pretty popular thing that we've seen. This next one, code enforcement training, also applicable to communities that issue building permits. This is another one that's one of the easiest ones to accomplish, very low cost, no cost. Essentially what it is agreeing that you're talking to your code enforcement officer and see if they'll go through a training module that's provided by the state through this program. It just involves having 2 municipal officials and the code enforcement officer sit down for a preliminary meeting with a contractor called TY Lin. They talk about the new energy code that was instituted last year. It brings in TY Lin to talk about what other services they offer. They offer a lot of great technical services that really helps out some beleaguered code enforcement officers that are maybe overworked or don't have enough time to do everything. So then they review a couple site plans from the code enforcement officer. They do a couple site visits with the code enforcement officer. One last finish-up meeting with the 2 municipal officials and the code enforcement officer, and that's it. So that one's pretty easy, and it's something that I think is particularly important with the new energy code. I think it really helps develop a lot of important skills. The last couple ones I'm going to fly through because they're 3 of the hardest ones. Climate Smart Community Certification is a Department of Environmental Conservation program. It's a whole separate program. So where this has 10 high impact action items, this has about 100 and some odd. And it is really difficult. I won't jump too much into it. I have an intern that works with me that's a whiz with this program, so if there are communities that are interested in it, we can see how many points you have. What we tend to see with most communities is they have about 80 points in that program. You need 120, so it gets to be a little bit more difficult. Another difficult one is this idea of community choice aggregation. I don't know if you've had a group like Mega or Citizens for Clean Power or Jewel Assets come and talk to your municipality or talk to you as a group. They're trying to promote this idea of community choice aggregation, which is essentially when municipalities take on the requisition of energy for their citizens. So it would be, for instance, the city of Norwich saying, we're going to find the supply of power for everyone in Norwich. It's difficult. There's not a lot of places that have done it. If it's something that you're interested in exploring, I can definitely jump into it a little bit further. And And then last one is Energize New York Finance. This is applicable, what it says is applicable to all eligible communities. Eligible communities are one that have lien authority, so that's not every municipality. So this is essentially, Energize New York isn't just another way of saying commercial PACE financing. So if you've heard of CPACE, this is one of those programs. It is somewhat difficult to do, and it takes a lot of political will. So I won't jump too much into it, but I'm happy to answer any questions about it. Just wrapping up here, the next steps after this is I plan on working with Tara to be in contact with all of you. If this is a program that sounds interesting to you, if you want to learn more about it, I encourage all of you to reach out to me. My contact information is right there. Jeannie Darling is the Executive Director for Cooperative Extension of Delaware County. She's fielding any inquiries until Tara is available, but Tara will be available next week, so we'll be able to start getting started. And so Tara, I imagine, will be reaching out to all of you in the near future, probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and setting up meetings to see if she can come talk to either you, talk to the town planning board, talk to whoever the necessary parties are, just to gauge what your interest is in the program and see if this is something that you want to participate in, or whether you want to just have help with benchmarking but you don't want to participate in the program as a whole, or you just want information on energy. So that's really what we're here for. It's a lot to take in, I know. Like I said, I'm more than happy to pass out this presentation to someone to distribute to the group. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Well, my first question or request would be to do just what you just said.
Yeah.
Send it to our planning department and have them distribute it to each supervisor.
Yeah, let me grab a pen and I'll take their contact information down. And I will send it to you probably right after this meeting. Yeah.
And I did have one question.
Yeah.
We're struggling with assessment issues.
Yes,
and solar
around
farms.
solar farms?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I wondered whether there was anything in this program that addresses, I see you had training for code enforcement.
Yeah.
You don't have training for assessors or?
No, and so I'll say my other part, my other half of my job right now is I'm working on this program half time. The other half of my job is I work on solar issues. Actually, I'm an energy educator for Cooperative Extension, teaching residents and municipalities about solar energy. So that's actually something that I would be more than happy to come and present to the town board or whoever it is that you represent to talk about those assessment issues. Unfortunately, New York State has decided they don't want to be particularly forthcoming with assessment. They're just kind of leaving it out in the wild at this point. There's been no directives. Yeah. I can say that NYSERDA has told me on multiple occasions that they're coming out with a guidance document that will help with the assessment for pilots for payments in lieu of taxes for solar farms. It was supposed to come out 2 months ago. I'm still waiting.
Well, apparently now the new game is to go around the law and go to the IDA.
Yeah, so they did that in Tompkins County. It's a difficult situation. It's something that the IDAs are aware of, and if you have a good relationship with your IDA, I would tell them that that's something.
Well, they're looking at some now.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where, at least in Tompkins County, the IDA hosted multiple public hearings with the and sought advice from the town boards, the town supervisors. I can tell you that a few supervisors were pleased with it, but there were a couple that weren't. And I think that's going to be the situation in almost every county, where some people are going to be happy with what the IDA decides and some of them just.
Well, apparently the precedent's been set and it's been done in several counties.
Yeah, I think so. But it is one of those things where there are other mechanisms in place. Opting out is an option. I don't know if it's the best option, but it is still open to municipalities. It has other repercussions that we would have to talk about.
Well, in the case of opting out,
Yeah.
the local assessors have not had much experience assessing solar farms, and I'm wondering whether they would be classified as a utility. And that's cost plus depreciation.
Yeah, so unfortunately they wouldn't be, because of the way that they're structured, they wouldn't be classified as a utility, especially because a lot of them aren't selling their power directly to, like, say, NYSEG. They're selling their power, they're becoming essentially like ESCOs, energy supply companies. So it's an extremely complicated issue. I will say that there is a group out there, the Photovoltaic Trainers Network, PVTN, is starting to do more and more trainings around this. And that's definitely something, if you're interested in, finding out more, I'm, more than happy to reach out to PBTN. In Tompkins County, I held a session for municipal officials and brought in the county assessor, we brought in the IDA, and we brought in PBTN to talk about solar farm assessment issues, and that's definitely something that I'd be more than happy to do here as well.
Send that contact to me.
Yeah.
Also the PowerPoint.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Jim, you can take that too, that's the board supervisors.
Perfect. Are there any other questions?
What
on
did
this stuff?
Tompkins County do with its grant?
Yeah, so Tompkins County just submitted their grant proposal the other day. So like I said, they got $250,000. They're splitting that in half. Half of it is going towards supporting, at least in their plan, it hasn't been approved by the state yet. Half of it is towards electric vehicles. They want to buy a bunch more electric vehicles. They want to install a few charging stations, do a little bit of education around that. The other half of their money is they're starting a program called the commercial. They want to basically hire someone to work out of county planning that would be a commercial energy navigator, and he would work with businesses to find out how they can save on energy costs. So whether it's installing heat pumps when they're doing a retrofit, or switching to LED lighting or lighting, or those different options. So that's their plan at this point.
Is there like a municipality in Tompkins that's like powering municipal services with solar?
There's a few that have solar panels on their municipalities, on their towns. So there's the town of Ulysses has solar panels. The town of Carroll has solar panels. Town of Danby has solar panels. So there's a few of them that have power purchase agreements with that basically a solar company just put panels on their building, and they just buy the power directly from those solar panels. So I don't think that they're supplying all of the power for the municipality, but they are supplying a significant amount in some cases. And some municipalities like Danby are getting to the point where they just entered into another PPA, and that will cover all of their municipal services probably by the end of the year.
Have you found any issues with smaller municipalities having difficulty qualifying because they just don't have the infrastructure to apply to? Any recommendations for smaller towns?
So I'll say that two of the communities that I'm working with are Danby and Caroline. And so Caroline's about 2,000 people. Danby probably a similar size, so both pretty small communities. There's a few actions that I think are fairly easy to do for small communities, like benchmarking. It's actually easier if you're a small community just because you have less buildings. Yeah. It's most likely that you only have 1, 2, 3 buildings. And especially because we can do the benchmarking right off the bat, it makes it a lot easier. The unified solar permit is one that they were all decided that they were going to pass. That's something that small communities don't really have any issues with.
On that
code enforcement training, same thing.
On that unified solar permit, is that for like individual applications?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with solar farms. I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. That's entirely residential solar. It's just to try and streamline the permitting process to make it uniform statewide. So there are three, those three actions are particularly easy, I would think, for small communities if there is the political will. That fourth one, I think, can be a little bit tricky. In Tompkins County, a few of them could already qualify through a Solarize campaign that happened there. What we've seen in the western part of the state, in Chautauqua, Cattaraugus County, two of the poorest and smallest counties and most rural counties, they've had a huge amount of success with electric charging stations, where they've actually seen some electric, as I kind of talked about earlier, using that unified solar permit funding, that $2,500 that you can get through passing the unified solar permit to install an electric vehicle charging station, and seeing that as a way to get, $50,000 or $100,000, and seeing it as, a small investment to get a larger chunk of money. So it is possible.
Dumb question, but
There's no dumb questions.
I'm sitting there looking at what does that equal? A couple $1 million there.
Yeah, it's I thought about it the other day. It's 400,000 and then another 5,000, 9,000. Yeah, just about 15.
Would you say how many people you have working? 17? Did you say 17 people?
So there's 18 grants total, and there's been one that's been taken. So there's 17 grants left, and we are in a 8-county region.
Well, that's what I was saying. The number of people that you employ to disperse all this. The point I'm getting to: why wouldn't it make better sense to let any little community that wanted to do something that qualified, just give it to them? Why I understand the political hoopla to create this for the governor. but you could just do it so much more efficiently if every project that you agreed was a good thing, just, either do a matching or just grant it.
Yeah.
Then, if they did them, then they would qualify.
Yeah.
You're making them work too hard to qualify. I'm suspecting.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I work for Cornell Cooperative Extension, not the state, so I just do the work that they hire me to do. But it's a good point, and it's feedback that we take back to them. As I mentioned, in a lot of these other places, the grants are starting to disappear, so they're starting to think about this is a program that's going to go on for at least another couple of years. At least my contract runs for another couple of years, so they're going to keep me on payroll to do something. And they're thinking about what can they do. And so this is good feedback that we take to them periodically and say, this is something that we've heard from the municipalities, that this program, why didn't you just do it this different way? And so that's definitely something that I can pass on to them and see, what their feedback is.
Yeah, we get some little, his town, my town, pizza, they're little tiny places.
Yeah.
Where, if we said, well, okay, we could put solar panels on the town hall, let's do that.
Yeah.
Then next year maybe we could do this, a charging station. And then then all of a sudden we'd have the 4 things. Then we could be part of the block,
I don't disagree with you. I think that's a fantastic point. I think that there are avenues that we can start to do some of these things, anyways, and there's different. I think one of the better things about this program is even outside looking at the grants and the actions is the access to be able to call a coordinator such as myself and Tara and to be able to say, this is what I've always wanted to do with my municipality's, energy. This is something that we've always considered doing, but we have no idea how we're going to do it. And that we can try and help you navigate that process and, run the cost benefit analysis and, find out where there's other streams of funding and do that sort of thing. So, with that being said, please feel free to contact us at any time. I'll make sure that Tara, reaches out to you guys, hopefully by the end of next week. She's, like I said, getting started on Monday, and so hopefully we can start to create those relationships where you feel comfortable when you have those questions to ask us.
Okay. Early in the thing you mentioned up to 25% up front.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's before we don't have to. Let's say a municipality is awarded a grant, so they could get 25% up front, and then do they need to pay the balance in full before they will receive?
No, that's a great question. So the way it is, it's kind of a milestone-based contract.
Okay.
So if you say, let's give, for example, you want to put heat pumps in your town hall.
Yeah.
So maybe for the 25%, what you need that 25% upfront is to get an energy audit done on your building and to get the initial plans for how much it might cost to get the heat pumps put in. So you could use that money, and then the first milestone could be once we accomplish that, NYSERDA agrees to disperse another 25%. And so once the contract is signed, another 35%. And so it's kind of that. So there's not the expectation that you're going to have to front the whole money and then get paid back.
Usually that's
yes.
Main Street grants and so on and so forth have operated that way.
Yeah, so this is they're looking for milestones. So as long as you set the milestones correctly, so you don't want to set the milestone as being we'll have all the heat pumps installed and then you'll disperse 100%. So if you can set the milestones in a way that you get the money obviously first, then that's what you really want to work towards doing, and something else we can help out with. So I know I've taken up a lot of your time. I don't want to go over my amount of allotted time, but if there are any other questions, I'm more than happy.
Be there to put the dog to sleep.
Yeah, she's already asleep, thankfully. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
So this is something you'll be emailing the committee? And
Oh yeah, I have three email addresses, 3 cards. I'll email all 3 of those. This actual grant, this PowerPoint. I have another. I guess it's a 3-page sheet that I can send along also that you can print out that has some of the, a lot of this information. Not as visually appealing, I will say, but and then we'll be in contact in the short future. A lot of what this is having those one-on-one meetings and finding out exactly what it is that you need.
And you'll also send the contact for the group that's working on the assessment issues.
Yes, PVT. I'll make a note of that right now. PVT. And that's something else where if you want, I can also set up some sort of county-wide thing that can talk about it. This is an issue that a lot of you are dealing with. So.
By countywide, you mean coming to the Board of Supervisors meeting?
I've been to many Board of Supervisors meeting. I'm more than willing to come do that. The other option is, setting up a whole separate event either during the normal side of the Board of Supervisors meeting, having PBTN and myself come, and maybe an assessment officer such as Jay Franklin from Tompkins or anyone else that has experience with this stuff. So definitely something else we can set up.
Very good.
All right, thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.